It was supposed to be an ordinary day in Texas, the kind of day where nothing makes the news, until you heard a scream not distant, but terrifying close, and later found a human head separated from its body and abandoned like a message no one was meant to ignore. At first, no one knew who he was, no one knew why it happened, and no one understood how a single act of violence could be so brutal. Have you ever felt that quiet, unsettling chill, the kind that puts you into fear even before the truth is revealed? Because the murder you're about to hear about didn't happen in the dark. It happened in broad daylight. This is not just a story about death. It's a story about rage, about a crime so brutal that it forces one terrifying question. How well do we really know the people around us? So at the end, we get to dive into the psychological breakdown, police mistakes, legal analysis, and lastly, the lessons learned about the case. Today, we unravel the true story behind the murder and beheading of Chandra Nagamalaya, a 50-year-old man on 10 September 2025, a man who was a loving husband and a caring father, who works as a motel manager in Downtown Suites Motel in Dallas, Texas. At 6 a.m., he woke up like everyone else who has routines and knew people who work with him and trusted him. The hotel workers were randomly cleaning rooms when Nagamalaya told Cobos Jordanis Martinez, a 37-year-old man, one of his co-workers, not to use a broken washing machine. Because of a language barrier, he asked a colleague to translate the instruction, and that act alone offended Cobos Martinez. Witness accounts narrated that Cobos Martinez left the room, returned minutes later with a machete, and then attacked Nagamalaya. Nagamalaya attempted to flee toward the motel's front office, where his wife Nisha and his teenage son were present. Cobos Martinez pursued him. By 8:30 a.m., the quietness of streets was broken not by traffic, nor people going to work, but by loud screaming. And on the day he died, nothing suggested it would be his last. The attack ended in unimaginable brutality. Nagamalaya was decapitated, after which Cobos Martinez was seen kicking his severed head into the parking lot before carrying it into a dumpster. This case still sends a shiver through anyone who witnesses how it truly unfolded. Moments later, a severed head was laying inside a dumpster, not hidden, not discarded. But there, in the open dumpster, the people who see it first were the motel guests and bystanders who struggle to understand what they're looking at. Police are called immediately, and officers from the Irving Police Department arrive within minutes. By the time police and paramedics heard the call for help, it was already too late. Whatever happened to Chandra Nagamalaya didn't unfold in chaos. It unfolded with intention. Before he became a headline, before his name was spoken in police briefings and courtrooms, Chandra Nagamalaya was just a man living an ordinary life. He wasn't powerful or famous. He wasn't someone violence would find, because he was a peaceful man with a simple family. The truth slipped into darkness when the first call came in. The police didn't know what they were walking into. They thought it would be a normal routine, but they were wrong. The situation didn't look real at first. It took a moment for the brain to accept what the eyes were seeing, because it was a brutal murder. At first, investigators didn't even know who the victim was. No ID, no immediate explanation, just questions piling on top of questions. Where was the rest of the body? Who would do this? And why go this far? When the identity was confirmed, the case changed because now the questions became personal. Chandra Nagamalaya was no longer just the victim. He was someone's family and someone's acquaintance. Investigators began doing what they always do, retracing steps and asking the questions. Who saw him last? Who spoke to him recently? Who had a reason, no matter how small, to hate him? Because what police uncovered wasn't random. It wasn't spontaneous, but it was personal. This wasn't just about violence. It was about emotion, resentment, betrayal, or humiliation. By this point, the investigations became clear, and they began to narrow the suspects, and motives started to line up. But in this case, The deeper investigators went, the more unsettling it became. This case isn't just violent, it's emotionally contaminated, and once they understood the motive, they knew exactly who they were looking for. When police found Cobos Martinez, he was still nearby the scene. There was no confession, just silence and blood all over his clothes, and he was still holding the machete. He was taken into custody. The arrest didn't come with relief. It came with disbelief, because the person responsible was not who anyone expected. What emerged wasn't just a crime. It was a portrait of resentment slowly hardening into violence. After his arrest, Cobos Jordanis Martinez was later charged to court. The details were laid with every decision, every moment, every choice that led to that day. And he was charged with capital murder, the most serious classification under Texas law, reserved for murders with aggravated circumstances. But the prosecutors initially indicated that they would pursue the death penalty, given the extraordinary brutality of the crime, which is permitted under Texas law for capital murder cases. However, during a court appearance in December 2025, Dallas County prosecutors announced they would not seek the death penalty at this stage of proceedings, instead reserving the right to reconsider if new evidence emerges. As a result, if convicted, Cobos Martinez now faces life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, the highest sentence typical in such cases when capital punishment is deferred. There is no scheduled trial date yet, and Cobos Martinez remains in custody for the murder case, but no sentence could undo what was done. The case is closed, but the questions remain. The brutality of the crime was no longer a rumor. It was documented, and the verdict brought closure, but not comfort. Nothing could return what was taken. Chandra Nagamalaya's case is now closed and another number in criminal history, but for those who knew him, it will never truly end. This case forces us to confront something uncomfortable, that ordinary lives can be shattered without warning, and that the most terrifying danger is often the one we never see coming, because monsters don't always look like monsters. Because if someone capable of this can live among us unnoticed, then how safe are we really? Now let's dive into the psychological breakdown of the case. Crimes like this are rarely impulsive. Beheading is not a method chosen for speed or convenience. In criminal psychology, it almost always signals something deeper: rage that has been building, resentment that has fermented quietly over time. This kind of violence is symbolic. It suggests that the killer was not only trying to end a life, but to erase, punish, or dominate the victim in a way that went beyond death itself. Because this level of brutality often comes from familiarity, from perceived betrayal, humiliation, or a grievance the offender felt powerless to resolve any other way. This was not just anger, it was anger with a memory of rage. We then dive into the police mistakes of this case. Meanwhile, the investigation is perfect, especially when a crime shocks the system. One of the earliest challenges in this case was initial interpretation, because extreme violence can sometimes distract its meaning, and then attention may lean toward randomness, when in reality the signs pointed toward a deeply personal motive. Another issue common in cases is timeline dependency, because witness memory fades quickly, and if not addressed early can delay clarity. And then finally, emotional crimes are often underestimated because investigators search outward when the real answers are often hidden within the victim's immediate circle. The danger wasn't distant, it was close. So we look into the legal analysis of the case. And, in legal terms, crimes involving extreme brutality carry weight far beyond the act itself. Beheading is considered an aggravating factor, evidence of intent, premeditation, and exceptional cruelty. Prosecutors focus not only on the act of murder, but on the decisions made before and after it. The court examines motive, planning, and post-crime behavior, and while the justice system can deliver punishment, it cannot restore what was taken, nor erase the trauma left behind. The verdict may close the case, but it does not close the story. So lastly, we dive into the lesson learned in the case. And this case leaves behind lessons that extend far beyond a courtroom. For law enforcement, it should reinforce the importance of behavioral analysis, not just on evidence alone. For the public, it's a reminder that violence doesn't always announce itself. So be vigilant at all times. The most dangerous emotions often grow quietly, and resentment ignored, anger rationalized, warning signs dismissed. And for anyone watching, this case shows how ordinary lives can be destroyed not by strangers, but by people around us. So if you find this case interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment below, because we are all families in this channel. We post crime videos always. Until next time, stay safe and vigilant.